Democrats working to confirm Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court by the end of this week. It's an accomplishment that they hope can provide a much-needed jolt of enthusiasm to an increasingly unmotivated base of Democratic voters. A recent Pew Research survey asked voters, does it really matter which party gains control of the House and Senate? And you can see Republicans are increasingly answering yes, while Dems are more often saying no. Well, that's a major change from just 4 years ago when the two parties answered almost identically. NewsNation's Joe Khalil joining us live in Washington, D.C. Joe, Democrats were hoping for a little more bipartisanship in this confirmation process, but regardless, are party leaders confident Judge Jackson's appointment will invigorate voters?
Well, that's the interesting point, Nichole, is that usually it's not Democrats. Usually Republicans are the ones using the Supreme Court as a political issue, a campaign issue, but that may be reversed this year, especially in light of the polling numbers and the struggles that Democrats have had both in Congress and at the White House that you referenced, specifically among black voters who've really soured over the past couple of months on President Biden. Democrats are hoping that Judge Jackson's historic nomination may be the thing that turns it around.
No doubt, the nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson is historic. She's on a glide path to becoming the first black woman to serve on the Supreme Court.
This meeting of the Senate Judiciary Committee will come to order.
But could her confirmation be the boost Democrats desperately need heading into the midterms?
It's going to be one that resonates with a lot of people.
According to a recent Marquette University Law School poll, President Biden's support among black adults has dropped 32 points since July, now down to 56%. Some Democrats believe it's possible Judge Jackson's confirmation to the high court might re-energize those voters.
I don't want to try to predict voter behavior, but certainly it is something that a lot of Americans are going to be proud of.
Senator Richard Blumenthal says Democrats are trying to put aside short-term political gains and focus more on the historic moment.
It is an act that we can look back on years, maybe decades from now, and say we were there, excited to do it.
But ushering in historic firsts certainly doesn't hurt politically. When candidate Biden made the promise to nominate a black woman, what followed was Congressman Jim Clyburn's famous endorsement, which gave the reeling Biden campaign new life and propelled him to the White House.
The president certainly had every good intention and every right in the campaign to talk about putting the first black woman on the court.
Many Republicans, like Senator Roy Blunt, who opposed Jackson's nomination, still concede it's a special moment. Blunt calling it a high point for the country.
So earlier this afternoon, the Judiciary Committee did vote to advance Judge Jackson's nomination. They deadlocked 11-11. Basically, what that means is there's a process now where the full Senate is going to vote on it to break the tie. That's going to happen later on, probably within the hour, actually. And then you've got the big vote later on this week, Nichole, that will ultimately send Judge Jackson to the Supreme Court. Nichole.
All right, Joe Khalil, thank you for that. Well, the confirmation of Judge Jackson to the Supreme Court, it's a big win for the White House, but just one accomplishment that Democrats are hoping motivates voters to back them in November as President Biden's approval rating is tumbling. And as we approach 6 months till the midterms, the administration rolling out some of its heavy hitters in an effort to try and drum up more support. Former President Obama and Hillary Clinton, the two biggest names now out in public, pushing President Biden's message. So joining us now, Axios political reporter Sarah Muha. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us today. Take us inside the Democrats' playbook here ahead of the midterms. Is this the White House? Are they in panic mode? Are they really trying to pull out the big guns amid some turbulent times potentially? Or is this really all part of their plan?
Well, the midterms aren't for another 6 months, and while it's very easy for us in Washington to talk about what exactly the White House is doing in order to get voters out, we have to also remember that voters have a really short-term memory. They're going to remember the things that happened maybe 2 or 3 months right before they go out to vote if that. Now, that being said, with President Obama visiting the White House tomorrow, the White House is not going to bring him out if they think it's not politically advantageous, right? So, of course, it makes sense that someone who is very popular in the party, he's one of the most popular Democratic figures, would come out and be, shown next to President Biden. Of course, he campaigned with President Biden really close to the election as well, again, to get voters right before they were about to go make that decision. And something that's really interesting about the specific event that he's going for is to promote the Affordable Care Act, which has actually become more popular in Republican-led states, in places where Medicaid hasn't been really expanded as much. And so that's definitely an interesting move, something to keep an eye out as people start to turn out for the midterms. We'll see what the exit polls were. I doubt it's going to be the fact that Obama came to visit Biden at the White House, but who knows? Who
knows? All right. So, Sarah, Hillary Clinton on Sunday said, Democrats just really need to do a better job of talking up their accomplishments. Let's listen to what she said.
There's a lot that Democrats can talk about in this upcoming midterms. I'm well aware that midterms are obviously always difficult for the party in power, but we've got a great story to tell, and we need to get out there and do a better job of telling it.
All right, Sarah, so is she right? And is that the reason for these tumbling approval ratings?
Democrats historically have had a PR problem. That's kind of one of the most talked about self-criticisms within the party itself, let alone folks like me, analysts, political reporters, and members of the other party. Now, that being said, is that the only reason that they're not performing well in the polls? No, there's other things going on. There's still a little bit of COVID fatigue. And of course, inflation, I think, is the biggest thing to look out for. Voters vote, they respond to polls as they feel the thing that's most important to them, of course, their pocketbooks and how that allows them to live their life and feel to move about freely, or to feel like they have some freedom in the way that they spend their monies. They're not feeling stressed out, obviously. So I think that's probably a little bit more of the sentiment that's going into the polls, and that's what we're seeing. But it does not help Democrats that they are not good at selling their accomplishments.
All right, and so we have some breaking news now. We've actually just learned that Mitt Romney will be voting in favor of Judge Jackson on her nomination to the Supreme Court. Obviously, that confirmation coming up. Is this pretty shocking? He's obviously now joining the likes of Susan Collins. Do we think more Republicans are going to get on board and back Judge Jackson?
It's very possible. This is, of course, an historic nomination, and often Supreme Court nominees do tend to be bipartisan. We've seen a little bit of, I don't want to say a backsliding, but of course a more partisan kind of Congress in recent years. But this is something that I think a lot of, especially more of those, I'm sure they wouldn't like to be called this, but those moderate Republicans, they want to be part of this moment, part of that historic decision that's taking place.
All right, Sarah Muha, Axios political reporter, thank you so much for joining us on the Hill. Thank you for watching. Click the red subscribe button below so you can get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.